Hello everyone and welcome to another car profile, otherwise known as the BoP test of course, where we look to see how the cars are balanced in the game. As you can see, we're looking at the BMW Z4 GT3 car, quite an old GT3 car. You know, it's been out for a very long time, it's been in lots of different games. Project Cars 1, it was used a lot. One thing to remember with this car actually is that I think it does in real life have some form of stability management, and that is sort of reflected in its personality in GT Sport. Now this is front engine rear wheel drive, of course, full NA engine, so you know, naturally aspirated, no turbochargers, and we're expecting oversteer potentially, understeer of course with a heavy front end. As we go to Brands Hatch here and into Paddock Hill Bend. Now initially with this car I was sort of struggling a little bit because it does have understeer. And as expected, it's got a long front end to the car. I did struggle out of Druids there a little bit with the rear end stability, but a 17.0, not too bad. We actually do have a 16.9 on the cards as our optimal, and of course that's what we're looking for. Optimal, not fastest lap, optimal lap, because you know, getting a 1 in 10 fastest lap is much harder to do than getting a 1 in 10 in either of the sectors. And at Brands Hatch we've got 5 sectors. As you can see, we're currently down on our fastest time so far. I just had a bit of an issue there in that left-hander. As we come up the hill now, we're obviously going to push like hell in this sector, similar to the Toyota in fact, where we had a better end to the lap than at the start. Now into here, now the car was a bit sketchy through here. That was the sketchiest part of this. As you can see by my fastest lap, I ran slightly wide, managed to bring it back. Obviously this is where we gain all our time in the lap through this right-hander. We nearly lose it, but we catch it, all well and good. As you can see, I do like to push the cars to the limit. Talking of limit, rev limiter, you do go to the limiter in this car. The peak performance is right at the end, so you do really rag it out. As you see at the moment, my optimum is a 122.6. That's going to drop down to a 122.4 by the end of the session, as you see there. And the main issues I found was that the higher speed the corner, the more it understeered, and you'll see that here at Dragon Trail. So obviously Dragon Trail, we're going to test curbs, stability at the end of sector 2. Of course the chicane is in there as well, so we get a good feel for the car. It's also, we can test its speed a little bit here. Now through this corner, normally, as I say, you would normally be at the end of the rev range, but I found it more stable in third gear. Second gear in this car you've got to sort of watch out for. If you don't use it, it's actually safer to, you know, go third, maybe lose a little bit of power, but at least you got the stability side of it. I use second here, but as you can see, I'm having to stay off the throttle that tiny bit longer, but we get a good exit and a 32.7. Not too shabby for that first sector. Took a while to build the speed up in that sector, but look, coming into sector 2, this is where you're going to see the understeer. The higher the speed you go, and you can just see that now. Look, all the way to the left-hand side. Now we're going to struggle a little bit for this left-hander, but we just manage it okay. The curb helping us around a little bit. As we come to this right-hander now for the stability. As we break down, I did try third gear around here. Second was better. Just got to watch out for that rear potentially coming out. But even so, 30.6 sector 2, that is not too bad. Now the chicane, this car handles the chicane brilliantly. Now you can absolutely flat it through here, not a problem in this car. Of course it's not as wide as most cars. Obviously the Toyota was definitely a good few inches either side wider. In this you can just get it through nicely, even with a little bit of understeer that it's got. You can flat that, which is very interesting. It does help in this last sector, and I think that's why it gets such a good time here, which you will see in a minute, because I don't think this car's got a lot of pace in itself, but it handles the last sector so beautifully. As you can see there, we're on a 136.890, so it's way up there. It handles the chicane beautifully, because it can just fly through it full pelt, where others you're lifting a little bit. So Interlagos, we're going to test undulations at the circuit, curbs again of course, and we've got some fast and slow speed corners in there, and then it's power up the hill at the end of the circuit of course. Through the Senna S, we had a few issues there. Of course it's the second gear corner. As I say, you've got to watch out for the second gear in this car. It does like to get the tail out if that happens, but it's very easy to catch as well. I definitely had the car out a few times. I had no issues. Now third gear, dark green stuff, handles it fine. Second gear, touch it and you're going to go flying, so be aware of that if you're using it here at Interlagos. Into this double right-hander, I found this okay. There was tiny bits of oversteer occasionally, but more understeer than anything, which is why I've got to delay the throttle. Into this right-hander and then the left. Again, you've got to be careful here of the revs. So you can see first gear into second, hit the limiter, and then into here again. Not many cars use first gear. I think the Porsche used first gear here. Z4, similar to the Porsche, you are using first gear. Struggled a little bit here. That bump does cause a little bit of oversteer. Of course, going into a high-speed corner, and I did say it struggles there with understeer. Obviously, you overturn the wheel, you get oversteer. And again, second gear corner exit, struggled a little bit on that exit, but we managed to get a good time out of there. I'm not sure whether this is my fastest one, but even so, we're going to come towards the line. You can see we're already in the 30s, which means we're not doing too bad in this car as we head towards the line. So we'll get a 51.0, but of course, optimum 130.921. And as you can see, my best lap wasn't even the best sectors. Shows you, optimums are the best thing to look at. Now here we're at Nurburgring GP. This is a balanced circuit, of course. First sector more about handling, bit of stability in there. We've got more speed later on on the circuit. Coming to here, first gear. As I say, not many cars use first gear, normally it's second. It handles it fine. Now this car in this first sector is actually very good. My first lap, believe it or not, I think it was a 155.4. I know it says lap 2 there, but I think my first lap was that as well. Which is unusual because normally I'm in the 56s in most cars as you get used to them. As you see that corner, stability issues again because it's second to third. I short shifted there to try and stop it in a 35.7. Not many cars going quicker than that in the first sector. We've seen a couple of 0.6s, not too many. Just leaving this right hander now, all's fine, very stable through there. I think the undulations of the corner help with the stability of second gear there as we approach the hairpin. Now into here we go. We're staying in second gear. We're going to come on the throttle, sorry, and we'll use all the track. 1 minute 1.7. Again, very quick. We've seen that's where the quick times are at, sort of that area as we hit this part of the circuit. Through the Schumacher S, no problems. A little bit of an understeer. I did have to lift occasionally. But again, high-speed corners, that's where it struggles a little bit with the understeer. But in terms of stability, you can absolutely drive this thing very nicely. And as long as I say, you avoid second gear, third gear, as you see here, you can just welly it out of here, absolutely no problem. So you see, I actually lost the car on the previous fastest lap, and that's where I lost it, which is why I did lap 11 here, because I knew there was so much time in it. I didn't want to show you a really bad lap like that. Going to the chicane, I nailed it last lap, by the way. So you're going to see the time just catch up to me a little bit there. Absolutely perfected it on the last lap. I couldn't believe how well I did it. But even so, we're still up on our time. You can see our optimum's down at a 154.9. What's it going to be when we cross the line? It's a 154.8. So, we're up there. We're in the 54s. And I think this is quite an underrated car, to be honest. I was surprised by this point at how well it was doing. Of course, Brands Hatchet struggled with the high-speed corners. But now Suzuka. So we've got a mixture of all sorts here. Handling, very balanced circuit. We've got speed in there as well as you approach 130R. That's where our speed trap is, of course. First sector. Oh, the first corner in this car. Lovely. Honestly, I love doing the first corner in this car. It's amazing. It feels so good. As we come through the S's now, again, struggling a little bit with understeer. You can see that in the Ghost. We were just trying all sorts. And we're quite early on in our laps as well. Lap number 6. As we get to our first sector, 33.1, not too shabby at all. That's where most cars are about, a 33.1, a 33.2, as we now head towards Degner 1 and 2. And obviously, last time we saw an absolute mega Degner 1 and Degner 2. This car, excuse me, is just as good. As you can see, you can just accelerate straight out of there. Because I've straightened the car up quite a lot there, second gear, no issues as we approach the hairpin now. This car is amazing in this hairpin. Again, first gear corner, accelerate out. Absolutely no problem at all. As we continue on now, you can see we're pulling that gap away. 1.5 tenths up on our 59.0. A 59.0 again. This is how easy this car is to drive. First lap, straight in, 59.0. That doesn't happen very often in these cars because I pushed to the limit straight away. But in this car, we seem to get it. We had a couple of spins later on, lap 3 and 4, but no problem. Spoon was a bit iffy because I wasn't sure second, third gear. It was very touch and go, so I stay in third again because of the stability issues. If I stay in third, potentially that's the safer option, and it is the safer option. As we head towards our speed trap now, you'll see why I was talking about the speed. We just, and I mean only just, get 155 as we now head towards the chicane. This car's actually got really good brakes, by the way. One thing I didn't mention with the Toyota is it doesn't have good brakes, and I really should have mentioned that. Even so, we leave the chicanes all fine and dandy and head towards the line, and we get a 158.8, but our optimum actually goes down to a 158.4. Our middle sector, sector 3, or which one was it? One of them was super quick, which is why I couldn't equal it. But now the spreadsheet, and you're probably thinking, this looks a bit different. It is indeed different. So there is a Google sheet now, a live one, so you can see the updates as they happen. And I've highlighted the Z4 because that's our latest one. And you can see it's actually come 4th, which is a surprise to me. You can see the times there, 1:55 just. I give it a risk indicator of 2 because I think it's very stable. You know, avoid second gear and you're fine. So in terms of comments, it has slight oversteer moments. I'm not sure why you can't see all the comments there, but I will tell you them anyway, and you can access this. It's in the description. Has slight oversteer moments if in the wrong rev range, and be careful with second gear exiting corners. Understeers at high speeds, which you saw at Dragon Trail, Brands Hatch, things like that. That's why it's down at Brands Hatch. Everything is really controllable. Even when you lose it, you can catch this car and rev to the limiter for the best performance. And I think this is a great starter car if you want to get involved with Group 3. So I hope you enjoyed that car profile. I've got a video playlist there if you want to watch another one. My logo's there if you want to subscribe. There'll be another one very soon. I believe it's the McLaren X. You can just see it right at the bottom, the McLaren. So that'll be an interesting one. But thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.